Good evening, everybody. I'm glad that you guys are here. It's an exciting time. It's an exciting night. It's this time of the year where I get super excited because, I remember being your age, and I remember, I wore shorts for the first time this last week because the weather was nice enough that I could wear it in the morning when I was leaving my house, because lately it's been really cold in the morning, so I just wear jeans. But I've actually gotten to wear shorts and flip-flops, and so it's the time of year that it just makes me remember being back to being in school. And it was those days where the weather was finally warm enough and you could walk out and you could just feel the wind on your toes because of the flip-flops, and your legs because they're white and pale from the winter, but they're exposed to the sun for the first time in 6 months. And so I always just associate that with sunny days, and even though it's not right now, and just feeling excited for what's to come, because what's to come is a break. And many of you have a much needed break coming this summer because you've had a long year. How many of you, school's been rough for you this year, more so than ever before, in part because of all the change with the online stuff and all that? How many of you actually thrived better because it's online? Okay, less of you. That's about what I would assume. There's something about this last year that even though parts of it were good, a lot of it just made everything feel kind of off. So this is the first time I feel like in a while, in a year, that we're actually going to have a rhythm that we're used to seeing come back. And so it's super exciting for me. I'm glad that you guys are here tonight. If you're here, we kind of started this series talking about the afterlife. And a lot of people, when you think about the afterlife, you don't think that applies to this life and the today life. And last week we talked about what the implications of the afterlife are for today, for the today life. We went to Revelation chapter 3, and we read about the church in Laodicea and about being lukewarm, and what does that mean for our faith and the message of the cross. And so if you missed that, go ahead and go back and watch that. That was a kind of kicking off where we're going to be today, and kind of handing the baton, so to speak, so that we can continue to move forward in the series. But the basic idea is that Jesus made a way through the resurrection to bring the afterlife into the today life. That no longer is death a weapon that is used against us for fear's sake, but the resurrection symbolizes the opportunity for us to have the Spirit living inside of us. We can worship wherever we want. We can have God's voice and His influence in our lives, literally living inside our temples of a body to transform us and guide us. And we get to live in such a way that people all throughout the Old Testament, all throughout history before Jesus came and died on the cross, that we get to interact in a way that's just not heard of. And so we have the Spirit with us. We have the afterlife in the today life because of the resurrection. And that's basically to catch you up to where we're going to be today. And I have a question for you guys. How many of you have ever been in a situation where you feel very unimportant? Maybe your friends invited you to a party, and they're like, you have to be here, and you come to the party, and then they don't even so much as say hi to you, and there's people everywhere, and you don't know most of them, and you're like, I could just slip out the back door and nobody would even know. And you're like, feel pretty unimportant. I don't know what I'm doing here, right? Many of you, you've had an experience like that. I've had experiences like that where I felt on the out. I felt like I couldn't connect with people that I was with. And I felt like, what's crazy is with this whole online thing over the last year, whoever would have thought, you've seen this, what's that girl, that YouTuber's name? Justine or something. She's a comedian, but she talks about her talking to herself before COVID. And she's talking about all these things. Oh, you're going to want to stock up on toilet paper because that'll be a precious commodity soon, right? And all these things that people never thought before COVID. One of the things was Zoom. You're going to want to buy stock in Zoom because everybody's going to be on Zoom. And when everything first hit the fan last year and everybody was on Zoom calls, it was real weird. Can we all just admit it was real weird? We tried a youth group on Zoom a few times, and it was fun for a time or two. And then it was okay, now it's just weird. And so we kind of moved away from that. We started meeting together again. But in those uncertain times, a lot of things were up in the air and a lot of things were weird. And I remember being on so many different Zoom calls with different people. And there was a lot of them. There were group Zoom calls where at first you're paying close attention. And then you probably experienced this with online learning at school. And then you learned, all the TikToks came out about how you superimpose yourself on your screen or do a video loop so it looks like you're actually there when in reality you walk away from your computer. Be honest, how many of you did this? You're not going to admit it here, are you? You're all very good students. But there were times I was on Zoom calls and I wish that I had done that, where I just like put a video loop of myself there and just left myself on mute so I could continue to get stuff done. But then, after a while, you start to feel pretty unimportant, because you're like, nobody like is talking except the person leading this meeting, and then I hit the unmute to chime in for my part. But then I could basically like go on mute. There was times like I would just go to the bathroom and come back, and I didn't really miss anything. And then I thought, well, maybe I can just turn my video off, just like I mute my audio. I can mute my video too, maybe. And then after doing that, I was listening in and trying to get other stuff done. And then I was like, you know what? I feel really like unimportant. Like I don't need to be here. Why am I even on this call at all? And if you've ever felt unimportant, it's a lonely place. If you've ever felt insignificant, it's a place that is isolating. And last year accentuated a lot of that isolation. But it makes me wonder, I think we've all wondered, does it matter if I'm here? Does anyone care what I think? Does anyone notice what I have to say? And sometimes, sometimes it makes you question a lot of things. When you're isolated, when you're in a bad mental place, and when you're feeling unimportant, when you're questioning your value, it puts you in a really dark place, and it makes it really hard to connect with other people. It makes it hard to see the purpose of anything. It's hard to see the purpose for your life. It's hard to see, what's the point of even finishing high school? I don't even know what I want to do with my life. Most polls say that people don't know what they want to do until after they already have spent tens of thousands of dollars on the degree anyway. So, and then they don't do what they went to college for. So why do I need to be, I'll just stop worrying about it. No one really cares what I think anyway. And all the noise and the chaos can just kind of squelch the voice inside of us and overwhelm us and make us feel like maybe I don't really even matter that much. And so the truth is, when it comes to the idea of the afterlife, when it comes to the idea of what the resurrection actually accomplished on an individual level, it's important to recognize some of the little things, because a lot of times we miss the most important stuff because we're missing the little things. And the big important stuff makes more sense when you've noticed the little things along the way. Like, how many of you have tried to jump in on a Marvel movie after not seeing like the previous 3? Or like, so the Winter Soldier and the Falcon, whatever the show that just came out, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like I watched the first episode and then I was like, I don't remember so many things about the MCU. I had to go back, actually for the last like month and a half, I've been watching all of the Marvel movies, and I won't tell you how many I've watched because it's embarrassing, because I've wasted so much time on it. But now I'm remembering and understanding there's all these little things that were like maybe one sentence long in one movie like 5 years ago that impacts the story here that's playing out, and you're like, I don't remember that, right? There were characters that were like major characters for that movie, but out of like the 300 movies, you like kind of forget what that character was. So fortunately Disney knew this, so they came out with like a Legends like thing in Disney Plus, and so you can go to the Marvel section, you go to the Legends, and you can like watch those characters' stories in 10 minutes and then remember things. Or if you're like me, you can like, yeah, I still don't remember, but I guess I'll just go watch the movie, and then you waste a bunch of time like I did. But the point being, sometimes we can get lost because we haven't been paying attention to the little things. We don't think God is paying attention to the little things. We don't see where God is actually trying to speak to us. And we operate off of the assumption based on what it seems like the world is telling us, which is there's so many people, there's so many voices that how could yours possibly matter? Now, Christianity has been huge as far as advocating for women's rights, as far as advocating for like giving women value in society, as far as like you go back to the ancient church in Rome, and Rome actually changed things politically speaking and gave women more value and the ability like to own property eventually, because Christianity had women leaders in their churches that then everybody else saw as, oh, women are capable of a lot of, women can do just as much as men, right? And so Christianity all throughout history has been on the forefront of elevating that kind of thing, and we've talked about that a little bit. But what I want to talk to you guys about today is a character who most people miss when it comes to the Gospels. She was a woman. Her name is Mary Magdalene, and she's a person that we know was tormented by demons, who had a very checkered past, who not only was she deemed unvalued by the society because she was a woman and she was technically women were more seen as property than they were as individuals in that time. And she was also kind of disregarded just because of her sin. She hung out in the wrong parts of town. And, there's that weird demon possession thing, so that was a turnoff for people. Like, people just kind of disregarded her until she met Jesus. And how many of you have you heard of the show Chosen? It's this new, crowdfunded show that's about the life of Jesus. If you haven't watched it, I don't recommend a whole lot of Christian movies because a lot of them are very cheesy. Have you, sat through a Christian movie before and you've been like, it's good, but it's kind of cheesy, right? This is not. This is legit. It's historically accurate. It gives depth to the characters that we read about in the gospel. And most importantly to tonight's discussion, Mary Magdalene's a main character in it. So it's really cool. So if you want some imagery on it, it's a free show. They've got their own app. It's called The Chosen. You can watch it on YouTube. They have a YouTube channel called The Chosen. It's crowdfunded, so it's absolutely free. And you can donate if you want, but it's free. And I would encourage you. The first season's done. They've started rolling out the second season. It is really good. The storytelling is good. I'll stop going on about it, but you need to go watch it. She's the main character in the very first episode, and you'll get a little bit more of a backstory on her character. But basically, she was undervalued. She was a nobody. Nobody cared about her. She wasn't important. And her story in the Gospels where we get to read starts out like that, as somebody who doesn't matter. And as somebody who tends to feel like they don't matter a whole lot, what am I even doing with my life because I feel like I'm not making that much of a difference? This story is encouraging because you see the hope that plays out in her story, which then transcends to all of our stories. Because if God could care about someone like that, then he could care like someone like me. And so we read her story. We actually read about her in all of the Gospels. All 4 Gospels record that Mary Magdalene was there when Jesus was put on the cross. 3 of the 4 Gospels say that she was there at Jesus' burial, and all 4 say that she was the first to see Jesus resurrected, which is kind of cool. She's on, when somebody tends to disregard someone, but God chooses them to be the very first person he's going to reveal the biggest miracle in the history of mankind. That says a lot about what God thinks of us. So check this out. This is the morning of the resurrection. This is Easter Sunday, the very first Easter. And Mary is going to, tend to the tomb. She's probably going to put spices there, and she's going to, take care of that, and she's going to kind of take care of the area. And she goes there, and to her surprise, the tomb was empty. And she's not thinking oh, well, Jesus is alive, yay, right? She's thinking somebody broke into the tomb, stole the body, and brought dishonor, even more so. And so she's not in particularly great spirits. But John writes this. Now Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over and to look at the tomb and saw 2 angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and one at the other foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, and I don't know where they have put him." At this she turned around and saw Jesus standing there. But she did not realize it was Jesus. He asked her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it you were looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned towards him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I have seen the Lord." And she told them that he had said these things to her. So, what's crazy about this is so profound on so many different ways, because not only was she the unimportant person that nobody could care about, but Jesus is the first. He reveals himself to her first, but then he gives her the message to go tell the other disciples. She wasn't even considered one of the 12, but he chooses her to go and tell the other 12 the good news. Of course, they don't believe it at first, and it takes a little bit, but it's insane. So not only is it crazy that he just reveals himself to her, what's crazy is the fact that we're reading about it. Because remember I told you back in that time women didn't have value? In fact, they would discredit a story because their testimony wasn't valid in court. Like, so their word meant nothing, basically. So for her to go and tell the disciples is crazy. But what's even more crazy is that John, when he's writing this down, he actually admits that it's a woman, a sinful woman, that Jesus appears to first. Because in that world, if you wanted to, like you heard the phrase that the winners of war decide history. They're the ones that write the history books, so they get to paint themselves in a really good light. Here's the thing. If John wanted to paint himself in a really good light, he would have said that Jesus appeared to the 12 disciples and they were in profound awe over the miracle that Jesus had performed, and now they went and told the world. But he doesn't. He gives the honest truth that actually we all were doubting. We had no hope. We were lost. We thought we were in hiding because we thought they're going to come for us next and crucify us for being his disciples, right? They didn't believe in the resurrection either. And so if they wanted to make their story credible, he would have painted it in a better light for themselves, but instead he paints them in the worst light and says, actually, he revealed to her first. He revealed himself to her. That says a lot about what God thinks about his people. And the people that we think that maybe God sees those people, and those are the super Christians, or those are the people that get it all right. Those are the people that don't struggle with what I'm struggling with. They couldn't possibly understand. No, God appears to the least of these. God appears to all of us. And the resurrection proves, and the story with Mary Magdalene proves, that God has assigned intrinsic value to each and every one of us. He valued and elevated them, even when the rest of the world didn't. When it came to women, Jesus and the church have elevated their position. And I'd say this to help you realize that in today's culture, what is that? Who are the people that are undervalued? Who are the people that it doesn't seem like anybody else cares about? Maybe you're thinking of somebody that sits by themselves at lunch. Maybe you're thinking of yourself because you have really low self-esteem. Whatever it is, this message is a reminder to every one of us that each and every one of us has intrinsic value. He goes, I see you. I see you, and you matter. Your life matters, and I have a very strategic purpose for your life. Literally, the purpose for each and every one of our lives is the same purpose he gave to Mary when he appeared to her outside that tomb. Go and tell them I'm alive. Go and spread the good news. It's because of the resurrection that Mary knew that she mattered, and it's the same to us. So I want you to think about how you treat yourself and others and ask yourself some questions. Do you believe that you matter? Do you treat yourself like you matter? Do you allow other people to treat you as if you don't matter? Do you treat others as if they matter? Are there people that you treat like they matter more? Are there people you treat like they don't matter at all? What would it look like to start treating yourself and others like Jesus did, like they matter? I think if we treated each other the way that Jesus treated Mary, our world would look completely different. How many of you are tired of the ugliness that you see at your school, the way people treat each other? How many of you are tired of every time you freaking open social media, there's like 3 things that tick you off right away? Because people are just ugly to each other. People don't respect anybody. People don't value each other's voices. People don't value what each other person is feeling. In fact, our culture would rather stick a label on you so they can devalue and decredit you to elevate themselves. But Jesus doesn't do that. Imagine what our world would look like. Imagine what your school would look like. Imagine what your family, what your home life would look like if all of us treated each other the way Jesus treated Mary. Our whole world would be flipped on its head. There would be no stopping the hope that is inevitably found in Jesus. And your life has the opportunity to be that light. Your life, you have the opportunity in every one of your relationships. You may have a lot of influence and thousands of followers. You may have like just 1 or 2 people that you're kind of close to, but you have influence. You have people in your life that I guarantee you are watching you when you don't realize it. And you have the opportunity to change the world by your life. because your life is one that is changed and transformed by Jesus. Just like Jesus valued Mary, and he has a very distinct message for all of us. I want to do something a little special tonight. Tonight is our last high school gathering where our seniors are going to be with us. Everybody go, aw, again. Aw. So it's really sad. But what we're going to do is we're going to send them out, and we're going to pray them out is what we're going to do. So I'm going to ask all the seniors to come up to the front of the stage, just kind of have a seat. Come on. And then I'm going to ask all my leaders to kind of come around. And we're just going to have a time where we're going to pray over you guys. If we need to pull up a couple other chairs there, we can. And then once we got all our leaders up, I want all of you guys to come up out of your seats and kind of come to the stage as well. And if you're like not cool with like touching everybody because you don't like that kind of thing, just kind of get as close as you can. Just extend your arm out. You can reach with the spirit. You don't have to reach physically unless you actually want to. But we're gonna lay hands on these guys and girls, and whether it's figuratively or whatever. But we're gonna have a time where we're just gonna pray. Nancy, I've talked to you in advance. Oh, there you are. Where's Nancy? So I'll have you start. Do I have a couple other leaders that want to pray before I close? Jeff and Paige. Okay, so we'll go Nancy and Paige, because you're right next to her, and then Jeff, and then I'll close us out. And then we'll get ready to break up into our groups.
Lord, we thank you for who you are. We thank you that you gave us your word to guide us. We thank you for this place that we can come to and gather together as you've told us to. Lord, I thank you for these seniors. I thank you for their hearts to be here. Lord, I ask that as they leave this place and go out, Lord, that you are with them, that they remember what they've learned here and what they've learned at home. Lord, that they remember what your word says about them above everything else. And Lord, in those moments where they doubt that they will, that they'll talk to you, that they'll reach out to one of us or somebody that will help guide them back to you. Lord, we thank you that you have taught them and led them, and we just ask that you continue to be with them, and Lord, just help them to continue to hold on to you as they go out.
God, we thank you tonight for the reminder that everybody has value to you, that we matter to you, and I just pray that as these seniors go out, that they would hold on to that truth and to hold on to the other truths we've been talking about in our small groups and that they've learned in your word, that they would hold that close to their heart, and that you would surround them with a community of believers as they go forward that can help them grow in their faith and in their knowledge of you, and just that you would guide their steps to place them where you want them to go, God.
Lord, we thank you for these seniors and their leadership. They've set great examples for the younger ones that are here tonight, Lord, and their commitment to come on a Sunday evening to worship you and fellowship with each other and lead and to learn. We know that there's others that couldn't be here tonight or can't always make it on Sundays, but most of them have made such a change in their schedule to make it a priority to be here, and it sets a great example. Lord, we pray specifically that you be with them and guide them as they take the next step in their journey of life, and whether they're entering the workforce or going off to school somewhere, they're not going to be the seniors anymore, they're going to be the rookies. But as we've learned over and over again, it doesn't matter how old you are or what age level you're at. You will use us if we're willing to, and we just pray that they will listen to your calling and their next steps. And many of the unknowns that are still out there. But the journey is precious and great as long as we are following in your your steps, Lord. So be with them and the rest of these that are here that are coming up, and the juniors that are going to be coming, the new leaders as the seniors. So guide them and be with them.
Lord, I want to just echo all those prayers, and I ask that you would continually be these seniors that are getting ready to head off, and I ask that you would remind them in times of struggle and in times of hardship, that you would remind them of your truths, and that there are people in their corner that care about them, that believe in them, and that are here for them. If they need someone to talk to, need someone to lean on, physically need help with stuff, God, help them to know that they are known, they are valued, and they are loved, and they always have a place where they are welcome. I ask that you would help them to just encourage one another and to be a light to the world as they go out to different colleges and to different campuses, to different opportunities, and to their next steps. I ask that you would just fill them with your spirit, that they would live life in your spirit. And we love you and we thank you for them. And it's in Jesus' name. Amen.